I invite you to come and start however you would like this morning. If sitting feels good, go with that. If you would rather lie on your back or even find child's pose, just come to wherever you feel like you need to be for the next few minutes. Settling yourself in that way with as much support as you need here. If you need to add a bit of extra cushioning, if you want to fold a blanket over the top of you, whatever you need here, just to really arrive and settle in. And as we take this time together, settling in, even though we're in different places, even though we're perhaps doing this practice together at different points in time, and then we're choosing different positions for our bodies to start, perhaps just feeling this connection to one another. And as we take these few conscious breaths here in our own space, just reminding ourselves that there are others sharing this particular practice with us. And each breath that we breathe is a chance to connect in so many ways. Let's start by connecting to one another. Can we then perhaps spend a few breaths connecting in with our own physical space? Noticing whatever you do from the space around you, whether it's sounds, whether it's something visual, whether it's the physical touch of whatever your body is in contact with. And then invite you to connect in a little more within the body with your breath coming and going in its natural, gentle rhythm, perhaps noticing however the breath is for you today. And as I invite you to just check in and acknowledge with some different qualities in a little while, you might choose to connect with these qualities in a physical body sense. You might choose to connect with them in a mental or emotional sense, or it might feel more like a spiritual sense, that part of us that is beyond our physical body, beyond our thoughts and emotions, whatever that looks like or feels like for you. I invite you to notice and acknowledge any sense of heaviness here, any sense of tightness or constriction, anything that feels a little uncomfortable. Can we just acknowledge and notice that here? And as we do, it's very expected and understandable for us to start finding stories about these feelings, about where they've come from, about what they mean. And perhaps we can take a step back from those stories and just remind ourselves that these feelings have no moral value. A feeling of heaviness can simply be a feeling of heaviness, whether that's coming physically in the body or mentally or emotionally. Can we just notice those feelings, however they present for us, right here, right now? And if it's feeling particularly difficult, perhaps with each breath in, we can create a little bit of space around wherever that feeling is without having to change or push away the feeling itself. Can we also create a little space there? A little holding room. Without denying or minimizing any of those feelings we've noticed already, can we notice and acknowledge any sense of lightness here? Any spaciousness or ease? Any feelings of comfort? As we did before, as we think about and notice these feelings, can we remind ourselves that they have no moral value? Can we just step away from those stories that pop up about these feelings and what they mean? Just bring ourselves back to the feelings themselves in this moment as they are. Perhaps noticing that we can hold feelings that seem contradictory or opposite within us all at the same time. And the scales might be tipped in one direction or another, but can we perhaps notice these different sensations, feelings? And rather than seeing them in battle or conflict with one another, can we see them as complementing and supporting one another in some way? The presence of heaviness allows us to notice and feel lightness, and vice versa. I invite you to take a few breaths here with whatever is present for you, whatever you most resonate with in this space. You're welcome to stay here as long as you like, or come back to a place like this anytime throughout the practice. If and when you feel ready to join in with some movement, I invite you to make your way just gently over to hands and knees from wherever you are. Finding a supportive tabletop position, hands under shoulders, knees under hips. I'd like to start with some cat and cow movements with your breath as you feel ready. And inhale, perhaps drawing the spine up towards the ceiling, pressing the floor away. And inhale, creating length in the front of the body as the chest and the gaze gently ease forwards, lengthening through the belly. Finding that rhythm for you. Exhale, perhaps to arch up, pushing the floor away. Inhale, lengthening the front of the body. Easing back and forth in your own rhythm. And taking it to whatever you need this morning. You might want to start really small and just notice those subtle sensations. You might find yourself ready to push further into that movement for you, feeling the edges of that stretch. And you might stay with this regular cat and cow, this sort of linear movement forwards and backwards or upwards and downwards, depending on which way you conceptualize it. Or you might want to bring in a bit of more flowing, intuitive movement, maybe some side to side, some circular elements to that same movement. So you've still got that arching up and arching down, but maybe the way you move between them changes a little. You could rock forwards and backwards, or take the sides of the body around to create a little bit of different sensation. Make it what you need here. Give you a few breaths just to ease into the movement, feel into the body. Let's take 2 more breaths with whatever is working well for you. Beautiful. Now we're going to take a little bit of work through a kneeling position today. So if having extra padding is helpful for you, it might be worth setting that up now, whether you fold your mat over a little bit or get a towel or a blanket and just create some extra padding where your knees settle. Feel free to add that in further down the track if you need, but we will be doing a little bit through kneeling today. So if you want to get yourself set up for that, now is a great time to do that. And then we're going to come up to a high kneel. So if you're still in hands and knees, we can walk the hands back and arch our back up. As the hands reach the knees, walking them up the body and creating just a mini roll up here. Coming up to that high kneeling position. Setting the knees underneath the hips, tall through the spine. And let's take a mini flow from here. We'll inhale, reaching out and up. Exhale, we're going to find child's pose. So looping the hands down to the mat, sliding them away as the hips settle back towards the heels. Inhale, let's draw ourselves up to hands and knees. Exhale, tapping the toes, pressing up to downward dog, just creating gradual length in the back of the legs here. Inhale, let's lower, supporting the knees back down. With our exhale, finding child's pose again. Then from child's pose, we can bring the hands beside the knees for a bit of extra support as we drive through the legs and draw the spine up tall, looping the arms overhead, bringing them together and exhaling back down to the heart. So we'll find this gentle rhythmic flow together. Inhale, reaching out and up. Exhale, fold child's pose. Inhale, hands and knees. Exhale, downward dog. Inhaling back to hands and knees. Exhale, child's pose. Inhale, rising hips up, arms overhead. Exhale, hands to heart. Let's flow through 2 more times. You can find your own rhythm or flow with me. Inhale, out and up. Exhale, child's pose. Inhale, hands and knees. And taking downward dog. Inhale, back to hands and knees. Exhale, child's pose. Inhale, back up, tall knees, arms overhead. Exhale, hands to heart. Last steady time through, moving with your flowing breath as we lift overhead. And child's pose. Hands and knees. And then finding downward dog. Lowering back to hands and knees. Finding child's pose. Rising overhead. And then hands back to the heart. Let's just take a pause here with our breath. Feeling the thumbs perhaps nestling in against the heart or the upper chest. And then gently releasing, coming back down. Let's find our way back down to hands and knees. And I'll set us up with an option for using this hands and knees position as our base. And then I'll give you an option if you want to lift up to downward dog as our base. So we'll start together here. We're going to anchor through the left knee, keeping this right angle bend in the right knee. We're going to take circles with the knee. So keeping kind of that same right angle bend in the knee, we're just going to loop the knee around in some circles, trying to keep as much of the rest of the body stable as we can. So can we push into the floor with the hands? Perhaps you imagine, as we did the other week, that candle underneath the belly, giving us that chance to kind of lift and engage up away from the floor with the front of the torso. You can stay with this version on hands and knees, or you can set back down, come up to downward dog, anchoring through the left foot and taking that same bend in the right knee that we had in our all fours position, and then looping the leg around from there. We can keep as much softness in that left knee as we need, pressing out strong through the hands. And then from whichever position you're working, can we take the knee around in the other direction? Looping in different direction, perhaps noting as we come through, where do we feel the body kind of stabilizing, perhaps through that left outer hip, left leg. We feel the hamstrings, the glutes, maybe the torso as well, really engaging to support this movement. Checking in with that smooth, steady breath as we take another cycle or 2 through that knee. And then let's come back down. Let's bring the leg down, coming back down to hands and knees. If you are up in that downward dog, you might find you naturally want to come into some side to side or circular movements to the hips if you're feeling it a lot in the outer hips. You might want to settle back to child's pose for a few breaths if you're feeling it a lot in the wrists and you want to stretch and squeeze out. Can we check back in with our breath? And let's make our way back up to hands and knees. And this time when you're ready, we can take the left leg. So we can anchor through the right knee, keeping that same bend in the left as we start to cycle the knee around. If you're familiar with that downward dog version, you want to go straight there, you definitely can. Or if you're not sure how we got there last time, we anchor both knees, tuck the toes and take both knees high, finding downward dog. And then bend and lift the left leg from there, taking circles around, trying to keep the same amount of bend in the leg, creating that movement from the hip joint. Can we use the breath? Can we use our awareness of the rest of the body to bring as much stability as possible? And gently changing directions if you haven't already. What can you notice about this movement? What can you notice about the tendencies in the body? What part of the body wants to move? Now, can we stabilize? 1 or 2 last circles here. And then let's all meet back down in hands and knees. Again, taking whatever you need here, some sideways movement with the hips, some circles, a child's pose for a few breaths. Taking your time to find what is needed here. And then perhaps let's all settle down in child's pose. So we can take the knees wider and settle the hips back. You might like to rest the head down or bring it onto some stacked fists, just taking a pause here. These moments of stillness are a great opportunity to check back in. And as we move through our class together, I invite you to take little opportunities to notice the different types of feelings, of sensations that show up. And it might be really similar to what we checked in with at the start, a sense of heaviness and lightness, a sense of constriction or ease, a sense of discomfort or comfort. And again, when we find these feelings showing up, can we perhaps just step back and notice them just for what they are, just feelings or sensations in this moment? And can we maybe draw our attention to something else sitting alongside it that is different, holding these different feelings and sensations simultaneously within us? When you're ready, let's gently unfold from our child's pose. We'll come back up to a high kneeling position. And I'm going to give you a few options for this next little sequence, which hopefully isn't going to be overwhelming and too much. It's just trying to help you find that right option for you. So from here, let's find a low lunge. We're going to step forwards to start with the left foot, setting up where the hips can be a little forwards. We can find a really nice amount of stretch at the front of the right leg. This left knee's roughly over the ankle. And we'll start with some movement where we inhale, bring the arms up overhead. And exhale, sweeping the arms back beside the body as we tilt the torso forwards a little. So we're sort of creating one long line from this back knee all the way to the crown of the head. So we can inhale, coming upright, bring the arms overhead. Exhale, sweeping and tilting forwards. So this is a great place to stay, tuning in with the different sensations, really feeling into the solid base of our low lunge. If this is feeling really comfortable, really good, and you want to add a little more element of challenge, what you can do is as we inhale, sweep the arms overhead, we can step this left foot back. And then as we exhale, step the other foot forwards and sweep back through on the opposite side. So we can inhale to come back, either staying on the same leg or swapping it over. And then exhale, coming forwards again. Completely up to you which one feels right. You can change your mind, of course, if you go with one of those options and find it's not working well for you for any number of reasons. Particularly with that changing side, if we've got the arms overhead, it adds quite a bit more challenge to the balance to have the arms overhead. So if you need to bring them out wide or touch down with a wall next to you and you want to take that option, you can definitely add in that extra bit of support as you go. If you've been on that first side this whole time, let's gently step it back and change sides now, either with the arms up or keeping them down if you would like a bit more stability there. And then we can set up again on that second side. Inhale, arms overhead, upright with the body. Exhale, sweeping alongside the body as we tilt forwards. Can we tune in with the breath here? Can we soften through the face, through the jaw? Let's take about 3 more breaths through, whether you're changing sides or staying on that second side. Beautiful. Let's come back. Coming back to that high kneeling position. When you're ready, let's bring the arms down. And then from here, we're going to see if we can step from this kneeling position up to stand. If you want to have the hands down or on the hips, you can. If you want that extra bit of challenge for the body, for the balance, try doing it with the arms overhead. So if we can tuck one set of toes while the other steps forwards, and then driving up from there, making our way up to stand. If you had extra padding across your knees, you could keep it there for our salute. You definitely could, or you could pop it to one side now. And then let's come up to the top of our space, finding a place where there's a bit of room behind you. Let's soften through the knees here, really connect through the feet. And let's find our standing back bend. So sweep the arms overhead, palms facing forwards in line with the shoulders. Softening through the knees, really engaging through the feet as we lengthen the front of the body to maybe look up to the top of the wall in front. Can we tune in with our breath here? We're going to stay a little longer than we sometimes do here today, so make sure it is a really comfortable place to be. If you're still looking for more, you could bring the gaze back across the ceiling, any amount to sort of lift and lengthen through the chest bone, through the heart. And while we're here, can we feel a sense of lightness in the body? Can we feel this lift and this reach up through maybe the front of the hips, through the belly, the chest, the shoulders? We feel a lightness and ease in the breath. Can we at the same time feel a sense of weightedness, heaviness through the feet, a soft cushioning through the knees? Sense of being balanced and stable here. Let's take about 3 more breaths wherever you're comfortable. We can ease back as far as we need to if it feels like too much. And then with our next inhale, let's together come all the way upright. Exhale, we'll fold belly to thighs as the knees and the hips bend. Bring the hands down to the feet, the floor, the legs, wherever's most comfortable. And let's play with some halfway lifts here. So we could bring the fingertips to the floor about 1 foot away from your feet, or we can bring the fingertips to the shins or the knees as we inhale to draw the spine up parallel with the floor, engaging across the front of the body, and exhale to fold. We can do that a few times here if it works for you. Inhale to draw up halfway. Exhale to fold. Perhaps 2 more times through with your breath. We feel that sense of stretch and length through the hamstrings, through the upper legs, as well as strength through the upper body as we lift and engage. The next time we exhale, fold, let's find our plank, planting hands, stepping the feet back. You could keep knees lifted or bring them down. Hands firmly underneath shoulders, a softness in the elbows here as we drive through the hands. Can we feel like the tailbone is tucking so ever so slightly here, creating a really strong link down the front of the body? Perhaps our gaze firm and steady just in front of the hands. And here we can take 1 more in-breath. With our out-breath, a slow, steady lower. If it works to bend the elbows alongside the body, just see if we can bring the chest and the belly down more or less together. If that's too much, we can always step the hands out further and step down through the elbows. Once we arrive down, let's bring hands on the shoulders and we'll find our floor back bend here. Forehead connected to the floor, tops of the feet engaging. See if we can find that slight tuck of the tailbone here. As we inhale, lift the head and the heart off the mat. Exhale, release back down. Let's take a few more just to feel into that movement. You can keep going with this flowing version, or you might like to come and stay lifted for a couple of breaths if it feels okay for the back of the neck, the upper back, for the belly, for the lower back. If you feel the lot in the lower back, try tucking the tailbone that little bit more, creating a bit more space in the lower back. And while we're here, can we feel some of those same qualities that we noticed in our standing back bend? Perhaps through the front of the body, perhaps across the collarbones. Where can we feel a sense of sort of weightedness and support here? Where are we anchoring firmly into the floor? Perhaps through the hands, the lower belly, the legs. If you're lifting, let's take one last in-breath here. Exhale, releasing down to the floor. You might take a couple of deep belly breaths into the floor or bend both knees and tick-tock the feet a little side to side, particularly if you had that longer hold there, just breathing space into wherever it's needed. Coming back to center, let's bring the legs down and make our way up to downward dog. You can push straight up through plank or come to hands and knees first. As we take the hips high, really pushing out through the hands, a softness in the knees, the heels softening towards the floor. Can we inhale, feeling the length in our spine, long from the crown of the head all the way to the tailbone. Exhale, feeling the length in the legs from the hip bones, softening down through the backs of the legs all the way to the heels. So inhale, driving long through the spine. Exhale, softening down through the backs of the legs. Let's take 2 or 3 more breaths here. Now you can release to hands and knees or child's pose anytime you need. And then from here, let's take a generous bend in the knees, looking forwards, walking or stepping the feet up towards the hands, finding that forward fold again. As we arrive here, finding that support for the hands wherever fits best. And then inhale, let's find that halfway lift. Exhale, fold. And let's take 2 more on this round through with your breath. Wherever the hands need to be for the spine to be long. And then let's come up to stand from that forward fold. We'll bend the knees, drive through the feet, reaching out and up, standing up tall. Hands back to the heart. And I invite you, in a moment, we're going to come just through one flowing salute this morning. I'll talk us through, but if you want to find your own rhythm, that's completely fine. I invite you just to sit with whatever you notice through this sequence, whatever sensations, body sensations, thoughts, feelings are there for you. See if we can step back from the stories or the attachments to it and just notice them as they are as we come through this sequence together. Let's just take one breath here to steady, inhaling and exhaling. Let's inhale, reach out and up. Exhale, fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, finding plank. Strong and steady for an inhale in our plank. Exhale, releasing to the floor. Let's take one lift here. Inhale, peeling head and heart up. Exhale, release. Finding downward dog. Let's take one full breath in our downward dog. Walking forwards, making our way to forward fold. When we arrive, inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold. Inhale, bending knees, rising up tall. Exhale, hands to heart. Pausing here for a moment. Taking a pause for one more breath. And then releasing when you're ready. We can squeeze and stretch the fingers, roll through the body, grab yourself a drink, whatever you need for a moment. And then let's make our way into a goddess pose. So we're going to take the feet that little bit wider than the hips, turning the toes out, bending a little to check that the angle of the thighs and the feet kind of match up here. And let's just find our goddess pose to hold for a little while. So as we slide down, taking, as we always do, that check-in, is the lower back long, is the tailbone pointing more or less directly downwards. We've got some nice space across the lower abdomen here. Can we feel in through the feet? Can we really feel the heels anchoring, the balls of the feet connecting? And we find space for the breath once we're here, knowing we can adjust up or down. We can adjust the feet in or out to find that best place to be. Just finding that smooth, steady breath here. If this is feeling really good, really comfortable, you might even want to bring the arms up, elbows straight out wide from the shoulders and palms facing forwards. Perhaps feeling that strength, that engagement down the sides of the body. And what do you notice here? Just tuning into whatever the sensations are. If we drive down a little more through the feet, do we perhaps feel some of the inner or outer thighs engage here? We'll take 2 more breaths. And then while we're here, you could keep the arms here or bring them down at any point in time. Can we start to shift our body weight side to side, just playing with how it feels to lengthen one leg a little, bringing a little more weight over to one of those legs. As you ease backwards and forwards, just see how it feels with the shifting sensations. Particularly if you have your hands on your hips and your fingers are wrapping over the tops of your thighs a little, you might even be able to feel underneath your hands the muscles of the upper legs as they shift and engage. You might feel a little length through the front of the hip. You might feel the quad on the leg you're shifting towards really engage and stabilize. Just a couple more times, whether you've got hands down or up. Let's just ease backwards and forwards. And then we'll find our center again, coming back to center. And let's take some lifts and lowers from here. So we can inhale to drive the legs tall. If you've got the arms up, you might want to bring them up overhead. Then with that exhale, let's draw back down into our goddess squat. So inhale to drive, reach up tall. Exhale to sink down, thinking about that tailbone again. As we draw the elbows out wide, if you're taking the arm down. And of course, it's completely fine to have the hands on the hips the whole way through. Let's take 2 more through this flowing version, whatever version of it is working for you. And then we'll all release the hands down. We're going to come into some side bends from here. So finding a goddess pose that you can stay for a little while. If that means you need to draw a little out of it, that's completely fine. Bring the right hand or forearm onto the thigh. As we inhale, reach the left arm up and over. Bring some length through this left side body, but still keeping this left hip down. We don't want to be kind of tipping over from the hips. We're quite even through the hips, and then we're reaching through the waist, the ribs. Let's inhale to draw ourselves back upright. Exhale to find that bend. It might even work better the other way around. Inhale to bend. Exhale to draw up. Just find that breathing rhythm that works for you. And if it's feeling great, having the hand or the forearm connecting with the thigh, you can stay with that option. If you want to try something else, you could release that bottom hand and sweep it across in front of the body. A little less supportive for the torso, so make sure that it feels okay for the spine, for the breath. We find elements of this lovely sweeping transition. Maybe you feel the air on your hands or your arms as you change sides. Let's take one more in each direction. Coming back upright, we'll bring the arms down. Let's draw ourselves up tall. And then from here, we're going to transition into warrior one. So you might rotate your body around to the right from here, or you might want to change where you sit in your space. But we're going to end up with the right leg forwards with the right knee bent. So his knees stacking over the ankle. And we want to be able to face the right leg. So if that means we need to shift where the left leg is or the angle of the left foot, we want to be able to keep this left foot flat. So do whatever feels right to be able to have this front foot forwards, this back foot flat, and be facing this front knee. From here, let's take a little heart lift. So you could either bring the hands to the lower back or interlace the hands behind and extend the arms long, just to create a little lift and reach through the heart here. Almost like a little cow bend if we think about our cat and cow. And we want to be able to keep some form of engagement across the belly. If you've kind of flung all the way open, it feels like you can't engage the muscles here. See if you can come back enough so that you can. Where the hands are lower back, elbows squeezing together, or interlaced, reaching away behind. Let's take one more breath here. And let's draw ourselves upright and we'll find our humble warrior. So again, you can keep hands interlaced behind or on the lower back. The torso tilts just around to sort of 10 or 11 o'clock. And then we fold forwards any amount, driving through this front leg to keep us supported. Maybe you stay up quite high on an angle. Maybe you come parallel with the floor. Maybe you've got a little space to tuck inside that front leg. Any of those places are great as long as the spine is long, the breath is supportive. You can anchor down through the feet here. Can we take 2 or 3 more breaths here, really anchoring through that front leg, hands interlaced or hands on the lower back, elbows squeezing together. Let's take one last inhale where we are. Exhale, driving us up tall from that front foot. And let's make our way to warrior three. Now you've got the option of bringing the hands around out wide or to the heart. Or you might want to keep them either on the lower back or with that interlace, particularly if you're familiar with warrior three and you're feeling up for something a little different today. We can hop that back leg in, finding that balance on the front leg, and then finding that place to be, whether you want to keep the toes connected and stay upright on that angle, or you want to start to lift the foot, tilting forwards any amount, leg lifting at the same rate as the upper body tilts forwards. Any of those options for the hands. You might start with them behind and find it's a little much for today and release them around to the hips or the heart. Different movements, all these different elements coming together, using our gaze perhaps to support with our focus. Using our breath to find a little release, a little bit more ease. And from wherever you are, let's bend into that standing leg and slowly come upright. Touching down here as we perhaps pedal out the feet or take a standing spin. You might plant the feet wide or spiral side to side. Particularly if you're twisting through the hips here, just making sure you're picking up that outer heel. Beautiful work. All right, let's come around to that warrior one on the other side. So if you've got the legs wide and you're spinning, you might just spin around to the left from wherever you are. Otherwise, coming into your space, stepping back with the right leg. Let's bend the left knee so it's over the ankle, this back foot coming flat on whatever angle needs to happen for it to work well for your body. We want to be able to face this front leg for our warrior one. Let's find that heart lift once we arrive. Hands to lower back or interlaced, reaching long. A slight lift of the heart here. quite similar to that standing back bend that we take at the start of our salute. We think about lifting the gaze slightly here, still keeping some element of support through the front of the body, checking in with the breath, easing out as much as we need to. Can we take one more breath wherever we are? And then we can gradually bring ourselves upright, and let's find our humble warrior. Spine long, hands to the lower back or interlace behind, head and chest moving around a little to 1 or 2 o'clock as we fold forwards towards the front thigh, really engaging the front foot to support that lowering down. Can we feel the crown of the head shooting away from the hips on whatever angle we're on, whether we're tilted upright, parallel, or tilting down? Strong and stable here. Can we stay wherever's most supportive for you for 2 more breaths? One more in-breath here. Exhale to drive through the front foot, drawing us upright. And let's make our way to warrior 3, that gradual hop in of the back leg. You could keep the hands as they are or release them to wherever they need to be as we maybe find a little bit of balance here. Finding that best place for you. One long line from the crown of the head all the way to that heel. Any angle that works for your body, for your balance, for everything coming together cohesively here. Let's take 2 more breaths. And then let's bend a little more into that standing leg just to bring us upright. As we release the arms, you might want to reach wide and cross over with the hands. You might want to come back into that standing spin, whatever feels like a good fit as you come out. Beautiful. And then let's come into one last standing pose. We'll play with dancer's pose quickly here before we come down. As always, dancer's pose is a great option to come alongside a wall or behind a chair to hold on to something. I'll talk us through step by step. If you're familiar with your dancer's pose, head straight there. We'll shift our weight over to the right leg with a softness in the right knee as we just kickstand the toes back behind us on the left leg. So we're not putting much weight at all into this left leg. But if you want to keep the toes grounded, we can push into the toes a little just to give us that length in the front of the leg that we get as we move through. So that length here stays the same no matter which option you're taking. If this feels really good, you might want to lift the left foot and see if you can grab hold of the ankle or the foot or the toes. And if you've got hold and you feel steady enough, you could hand around to the inside of the foot. So the palms facing away from the body, the thumbs pointing back behind you. This is a great place to stay. If you're not needing that other hand for support, you could reach it up towards the ceiling. Again, you can stay right here, or if you're looking for more, again, we can start to push and kick the foot up behind us as we tilt the body forwards. Really similar to our warrior 3 in that as the body tilts, the leg lifts behind. We try and move the body and the leg as one unit to whichever place we want to be, and that lets us kind of adjust in and out in a really gradual, supportive way. Any of those places you want to be. Let's take about 2 more breaths in that dancer's pose. And then we'll gently release down. If you need to take a pedal or a roll out of that right foot, you can do that now. And then we'll come to the other side, that same process of working through, grounding through the left knee with a softness there, stepping the right toes back to find that length in the front of the right thigh. When you're ready, perhaps adding in that foot lift. Maybe you squiggle that hand around to the inside of the foot. It gives us this space, this reach through the front of the right shoulder. Again, you could have that left hand anywhere you need for support. If you want to bring it up, you could, knowing that'll probably make the balance a little more tricky. And then take it as far as you need, that leg kicking away behind as we reach the heart forwards. And perhaps if you have any capacity of focus left, noticing what comes up for you. Can we let go of the stories around the feelings and the sensations and just notice them as they are, whether it's a shakiness in that standing leg, whether it's a difficulty finding kind of that steadiness as you tilt forwards, whether it's needing to release to come back to a previous option, whatever's there, can we just let it be as it is? Perhaps taking one more steady breath where you are. And then let's all release and come back together. Perhaps a little pedal or a roll out here. And then we're going to make our way down to kneel again. And again, if you need to add in a little bit of extra padding underneath the knees, it's a great time to do that now. We want to make sure that we've got some space side to side for us. So we're going to come into a kneeling on the left side with this right leg kicking out behind. So depending on your space, you might need to spin because we want to have plenty of space out to the left and the right here. So this right foot comes flat if possible, feeling perhaps a length down the left inner right leg. The left hip, see if we can anchor it over the left knee. And we're going to take some side bends here. So we can inhale, sliding the right hand down the leg any amount as we reach up and over. Exhale, doing the same with the left, either chopping the hand in against the hip or sliding the hand down as we reach perhaps a little more up towards the ceiling. Moving side to side when you're ready, finding that rhythm with your breath. And as you get into the rhythm, you might notice there's a fair bit of difference in the sensations because we've got this different base, even though the movement for the upper half of the body is quite similar. What do you notice on this reach over when we're supported by the extended leg versus the opposite side when there's perhaps a little less support with this vertical leg? And if this is feeling like enough, we can stay with this. If you're looking for a little more, as we wheel this left hand down, we can come all the way down to the floor and reach up and over long into our gate pose, engaging the body, the legs as we drive back up. If you've got a yoga block, this can be a really great one to have a block in your left hand the whole way through. So we can pick up the block in this left hand. I don't have one close enough to demonstrate. And then as we touch down, we've got the block underneath the hand, which just gives us a little bit more support for that reach. Beautiful. Let's come a few more times through, whether you're staying upright with that left side of the side bend or whether you're coming down. Let's do one more time over to the right. As we come down, let's all come down to the floor. So if you were taking that tilt, you already know it, familiar with coming down. If you haven't been, let's slide that left hand down the left thigh and then just walk it out to the side so it's straight out from the knee. We want the hand and the knee far enough away so this underside of the body feels spacious. If we bring it too close, we get really cramped in here. So don't hesitate to walk that hand further away. It is a great one if you happen to have a block or something small and solid handy, but I know not everyone has one, so it's definitely not essential. We can keep this top hand onto the hip or we can reach it up towards the ceiling. And we can keep this back foot anchored or we can lift a little or a lot, however much the side body allows. Any of these places are great places to be. And if you've come into that lift and you're really feeling like a challenge today, one thing we can do is bend that foot towards the bottom. See if we can take this top hand around and find a grip on the ankle or the foot and then fold out again. So we've come into a bit like our dancer's pose, a bit of a quad stretch on this top side. It's completely optional. Any of these other places are great places to stay. It's just that next little bit of challenge if today feels like the day to have a go. Can we find a spot to rest the gaze? Can we find our smooth, steady breath with whichever version is working for us here? One more smooth, steady breath. To come back down, let's bring this top arm all the way down to the floor, walking ourselves back around in front of our knees. And then we're going to swap sides. We're going to bring that right leg in, finding that support underneath the knees if we need it, and then taking the left leg out long this time and wheeling ourselves back upright, finding ourselves on the other side now, hopefully. So we've got left leg long, right hip firmly square over the knee. Enough support under the knee to feel comfortable here. And let's find those side bends that slide away down the left leg as we reach and extend the right side of the body. We could have the hand at the hip or sliding down the leg. I invite you to just take a couple of rounds through upright before you come into that tilt. It is sort of a surprisingly big movement to tilt over and plant and then get ourselves back up again. Just feeling into that length through the side body. And then if and when you feel ready, the next time we head over to the right, you have the option of reaching long through the right hand, touching down and coming all the way over with the left hand. Again, if you have a block handy, it is a great one to bring under the right hand. If the floor is comfortable, that's great. And if it doesn't work for you and you want to stay upright, that's also a great opportunity to find some length through the side of the body. Let's take about 3 more rounds, just smooth and steady with your breath. Finding a rhythm with the breath that works for you and helps you to connect in body and movement and breath working together. And then the next time we come over to the right, let's all make our way into our gate pose. You could tilt as you have been or slide that right hand down, using the left hand for some extra support to walk that hand away and play around with the distance. We want this wrist underneath the shoulder, a bit of a bend in this bottom elbow. You could stay right here, or you could reach up towards the ceiling. This is feeling good. You might try floating that top leg away any amount. You might even lift and lower. If you're not sure if lifting is sustainable, you could come between the two. And that final option of bending the heel in, I find I need to fold forwards in the body to grab that heel or ankle and then kind of open back out again, but completely optional. Any place you need to stay, finding breath. What do you notice here in this position for the body? Let's take 2 more smooth, steady breaths. And then let's wheel that top hand all the way down, releasing the leg if you have that held. Let's come around in front as we bring that left leg in. Let's find child's pose here, taking the knees a little wide, letting the hips settle back, extending the arms out in front if that works for the shoulders. If possible, we're going to find a little side length here. So just walking the hands a touch over to the right, only as far as you need to go to feel a nice amount of length down the left-hand side of the body. Can we soften the head there? And can we let everything go here? Can we just let the arms relax and soften where they are? That weightedness of the hips drawing behind us, really adding to that sense of length down the left-hand side of the body. Taking a few moments to be with these sensations. We've been working a lot with side body length. This one is a much more passive, supportive version. So what do you notice now that we're here? And gently, as you're ready, we can work our hands back through center and over away to the left-hand side again. Rather than trying to go as far as we physically can, what can we tune into as we creep the hands across? Where's that place where we start to feel that stretching, lengthening sensation? Can we soften and settle into that place? Perhaps each breath creating a bit more length and stretch down through the right side ribs. Last week we tuned a lot into that side body breathing. Can we perhaps notice it here and now? And then I invite you to come once again to center, rising up and gradually making your way over onto your back. Supporting our way down however you need. Can we hug the knees into the chest here? Perhaps squeezing, releasing a few times, feeling the way the legs press in against the belly of the chest. And then we can come into our side body twists, letting the left foot come to the floor, the right leg crossing up and over. The arms can head out wide as we shift the hips a little to the left, letting both legs fold away to the right. Perhaps the gaze is at the ceiling, perhaps the gaze is towards your right hand. When you find that space, that reach around the side body, the outer hip. As we start to slow things down, find a little more stillness. Just taking time to acknowledge what's here for you. Is there a sense of stretch or space? Is there a sense of heaviness? Just acknowledging those feelings even when, and perhaps especially when, they feel like they're contradictory. Let's take 2 more breaths here. And slowly let's unravel ourselves. Coming back up, hips to center. Left leg over right this time. Hips a little to the left. Both legs releasing to the right. Letting them just settle however far they go. If it feels like too much, if they're hanging in space, you can always add in extra padding here underneath the legs. You might bring your gaze away to the left, perhaps. Taking steady, conscious breaths. And let's gently unravel ourselves as we come back to center, taking any last movements or adjustments that you need, whether it's a hug of the legs, a rock, some circles with the knees, or something else altogether. And then finding your way to your comfortable resting place. Get you set up and settled in, and then the opportunity to stay for as long as you like. So if you have a little longer, feel free to take some time getting super comfortable and supported here. As you settle in, I invite you to use your breath. Perhaps a full deep breath in here. Heavy release with a sigh. When it's ready, your breath can find its own natural, gentle rhythm. And I invite you, as you settle in here, to once again just come into the place of a gentle observer. Someone who is looking out for your best interests, who is here to support and guide and love you through whatever is happening for you. And from this place, can we just acknowledge and notice any sense of heaviness, physically or mentally, any tightness or constriction, any discomfort. Noticing and allowing, and if we find ourselves getting carried away by the stories of these feelings, we just gently notice that and let it go. Come back to the qualities of the feelings themselves. Can we locate them in our physical body? And just allow them the space to be. in a similar way, can we acknowledge and notice any lightness, any spaciousness, any ease and comfort? And as those stories pop up or try to carry us away, just noticing as that happens, shifting our focus back to the feelings themselves. And for these next few moments, for as long as you have to stay here today, we can hold this space for ourselves and these feelings. Being here in this moment with our body, with our mind, with our breath. As long as you have to stay. From my heart to yours, thank you so much for connecting in today. I look forward to seeing you again soon. Thank you.